Eagle should put a lot of pressure on Eala, and that's the biggest challenge of the tour. The world number one is going off on the record about Alexa. Eagle will always be a dangerous player and on a court a few hundred meters away. Eala is crying. Alexandra Eala from the Philippines and has a huge win for her. Racket by her side, having just beaten top 10 Aryna Sabalenka in straight sets. Court 1 at Steffi Graf Stadion. The racket is held loose in her left hand like she's forgotten she's carrying it. Her right hand is over her mouth. Her eyes are wet. Across the net, Svitolina 20 career titles, former world number 3, a woman Eala watched on television as a child in Manila is walking toward the net to shake her hand. The scoreboard reads 63-64. The stadium clock reads 1 hour 23 minutes. And somewhere in the numbers behind the scoreboard, a different figure is quietly ticking over. This is Eala's 6th career top 10 win and her second one inside 48 hours. She lowers her hand from her face. She says on live television that she is in shock. She is 21 years old, unseeded on a wild card in a WTA 500 the week before Wimbledon. And Aryna Sabalenka, the world number 1, has come back after really tough starts. I'd like to play another final against her has already put her verdict on Eala into the public record, not as a reaction to this match but as a standing position. The tour has been reading for weeks that verdict lives in a full-length ABS-CBN interview titled Born for Center Court, in which the reigning number 1 speaks about the young Filipina in the register of anticipation, not tolerance. That interview is the frame around today's story because what happened in Berlin between June 18 and June 20, 2026 is the moment Sabalenka's private forecast became the tour's public accounting. IA walked into Berlin ranked outside the top 30 unseeded with one career top 10 win on grass. She walked out with a career-high ranking, a Wimbledon seeding, and 2 top 10 scalps in 2 nights. The ranking sheet updated. That is the story. For most of the season, the operating assumption inside the WTA was reasonable and cautious. Alex Eala was a talented young player still translating juniors into seniors. She had a signature run Miami 2025. For top 30 wins, including Egontek in the semi-final. But the tour's memory of that week was written in a specific handwriting. Outlier. Hard court, fast conditions, home crowd energy from a diaspora that filled the stands. A talented player who caught fire once. Coming into Berlin, she had beaten exactly one top 10 player on any surface other than that Miami hard court. And she had never beaten one on grass. Her lifetime record against Czech players, a specific, unglamorous data point that will matter later, was 1 win against 13 losses. She was on paper a player the top of the tour was watching, not planning around. Then Berlin happened. Not 1 shock, but 2. Not on her strongest surface, but on grass. Not against a fading name, but against the number 2 seed one night and the number 6 seed the next. And the question stopped being whether Miami was real. The question became whether Miami was the ceiling or the floor. Start with the score because the score is the smallest true thing here. All defeated Aryna Sabalenka 63-64 in the Berlin quarterfinal on June 19 into the early hours of June 20, 2026 Manila time. 1 hour and 23 minutes straight sets. First ever meeting between the two. Svitolina came in with a 35-9 record for the season. Ranked number 8 in the world, seeded number 6 in Berlin, a former world number 3 with a 2018 WTA Finals title on her resume. This was not a lucky loser draw or a walkover into a depleted quarter. This was a top 10 player in form on a surface that historically rewards experience, and Eala closed her out from 54 in the second, a game Tracy Austin would later describe as the tightest window of the match. The score line understates it, but only because 24 hours earlier, she had already done something even harder. In the round of 16, Eala had beaten the number 2 seed, Elena Rybakina, 75-64. Rybakina, 2022 Wimbledon champion. One of 3 or 4 cleanest ball strikers in the women's game. A player whose serve on grass is a genuine tour-level weapon. Eala took her out in straight sets on Rybakina's best surface. That is not a moment. 2 of those in 48 hours is a pattern. And this is the number that carries the weight. Berlin was Eala's 6th career top 10 win. But more importantly, it was the second time in her career she had strung 2 of them together back-to-back. The first time was Miami 2025 Madison Keys then. That's the last time we will mention Miami in this script because the point is not to relitigate it. The point is that 15 months later, she did it again on a completely different surface against completely different opposition in a completely different draw. 1 instance is an outlier. 2 instances on 2 surfaces against 4 different top 10 opponents is the beginning of a shape. Take a breath here because the numbers about how she won are as interesting as the fact that she won. Svitolina hit 4 aces in that quarterfinal. Eala hit 1. Sabalenka is the more powerful server statistically and on a grass court. That should matter. What actually decided the match was on the other side of the ball. Per ESPN's Match Report and Tennis Channel's broadcast analytics, Sabalenka made 23 unforced errors to Eala's 9. Eala won 13 of the 22 first serve return points and 21 of the 42nd serve return points against a former world number 3 on grass. Her own first serve percentage sat at 69%. High enough to keep Sabalenka from getting a rhythm on second ball attacks. In plain English, Eala did not out-hit Sabalenka in Berlin. She out-returned her. She outdid her. She played the point one shot longer than Sabalenka wanted to. That's an important detail because the narrative that has been growing around Eala for 2 years is that she is a power hitter, a lefty who cracks the ball and wins on speed. Berlin argues the opposite. Berlin argues her game translates because it has a second layer underneath the first one. That second layer is what the authority in the sport picked up on immediately. And it's why the verdict started stacking up before the towel had even dried on her shoulder. Tracy Austin has been inside women's tennis for 50 years. 2. What an impressive last game, down 0-30 and somehow found a way. Served well, did just enough variation with her serve, with her spins, driving the ball to make Svita feel uncomfortable. Sabalenka with 23 unforced errors, just a tidy 9 for Eala. The 2 words in that quote that matter most are sturdy and variation, not power, not upside, not potential. Sturdy, a word you use about players who are already built. Variation. A word you use about players who understand the sport, not just play it. That's Austin's read. And further up the food chain, the world number 1 has been on record about Alexa for months. Aryna Sabalenka's interview with ABS-CBN titled Born for Center Court is not a response to the Sabalenka match. It is her standing public position. The reigning number 1 speaking about a player ranked in the 30s as someone the sport should expect to see on its biggest stages. That is the layer of validation the title of this video is pointing at. Sabalenka is not going off in anger. She is going on record. And now the ranking sheet reflects what those voices have been saying. The Berlin semifinal finish, even in defeat, pushed Eala into a career high in and around number 30 in the world, up from around number 35 the week before and up from roughly number 49 at the start of the year per the Week by Week tracking published by GMA Network and Tennis 365. She entered Wimbledon 2026 as the number 29 seed. That is not a footnote. That is her first Grand Slam as a seeded player, and meaning she is now on the side of the draw that unseeded players are trying to survive their way toward. The gravity has reversed, and then on July 2, 2026 she beat Maya Joint in the second round at Wimbledon to reach the third round of a Grand Slam for the first time. The first Filipino woman ever to do so at any slam, confirmed by Wimbledon's own official channels 2 years ago. The Philippines had never had a player seeded at a major. This week, they have one in the third round. Zoom out for a moment because the shape of this matters beyond one player. The WTA is in the middle of a deliberate expansion of its Asia-Pacific footprint. The WTA finals cycling through Shenzhen and Riyadh. The Guadalajara 1000 elevation. The calendar itself tilting eastward in ways it did not a decade ago. Into that geography, Alex Eala walks as the first Filipina seated at a Grand Slam. That is a country-level fact. But there is also a sport-level fact underneath it, which is that top 10 wins on multiple surfaces separate the players who catch fire from the players who stay lit. Eala has now recorded top 10 wins on hardcourt in Miami and on grass in Berlin against 2 different top 10 opponents in the same week. She has not yet done it on clay. That's a data-honest gap, not a criticism. But the surface breath is real, and it's the thing that scouts and tour directors track more carefully than headline scalps, because it's what predicts whether a player is a matchup problem or a seasonal-long problem. The room she has walked into this week, the seeding line at Wimbledon, numbers 1 through 32, is a specific room. Sabalenka is in it, Rybakina is in it. Pegula is in it. Sabalenka is in it. And Eala at number 29 is now in it, too. Not as a wild card invited to the edge of the photograph, but as a seeded name on the order of play. Because that room is real. Its ceiling is also real. And the same week that showed Eala's ceiling also showed where it currently stops. 24 hours after beating Sabalenka, Eala played Linda Noskova in the Berlin semifinal and lost 26-46. Noskova is a Czech player number 13 in the world. And coming into that match, Eala's lifetime record against Czech players was 1 win and 12 losses, with the specific memory of losing to Noskova herself, 62-6 love at Indian Wells earlier in 2026. Sitting on top of the pile, Ia said before the match, she's a big hitter. She's young, but she has a lot of experience. Last match with her proved to be very difficult for me. On the record that Noskova was a big hitter. She's young, but she has a lot of experience and is very powerful. My last match with her proved to be very difficult for me. So, coming into the semifinals, I hope to prepare and make some improvements and show what I've got. She prepared. She showed what she had. She still lost in straight sets. That is what a turning point actually looks like up close. A peak and a ceiling in the same week, both true, neither canceling the other. 10 days later, she opened Wimbledon with a straight sets win, then reached the third round. The floor kept moving up while the ceiling stayed where it was. Both facts belong on the ledger. So, the verdict, not she's arrived, not she's the next anyone. The verdict is that the ledger has been updated in ink by the tour's own accounting. 6 career top 10 wins. 2 of them back-to-back in 48 hours on grass. Career high in and around number 30. Seeded 29 at Wimbledon. First Filipina in a Grand Slam third round. A Hall of Famer using the word sturdy. The reigning world number 1 on the record calling her a center court player before this match was even played. Go back to court 1 at Steffi Graf Stadion. The racket by her side, the hand over her mouth, the tears, and put the ledger underneath the image. Now, that's not shock at an accident. That's the recognition of a threshold crossed. The child in the Manila stands watching Svitolina on TV. The one I referenced on the microphone when she said, "I've been watching her since I was a kid, so to be able to compete with her today is such an honor." That child and the seeded name on this week's Wimbledon order of play are the same person standing on the same court 30 minutes apart. She hit 1 ace in that match. Svitolina hit 4. It didn't matter. She doesn't need to be the biggest hitter in the room to belong in the room. She's in the room. Sabalenka, Rybakina, Pegala, Svitolina, their names are on the same page as hers now. Not as posters on a wall, but as opponents whose score lines she has authored or contested. Wimbledon third round is live this week. If you want to watch what the next chapter of this ledger looks like as it's being written, subscribe and turn notifications on. The room she's in now is the one that gets televised.